Hey everybody, Russ here at Shaper Tools, and we just finished this week's live Shaper session on arched frame and panel doors.
2 different ways.
That's right, we cut the inside of the upper rail with Origin directly, and then we also used a template to go over to the bandsaw and the router table to cut the entire top of this frame, styles included.
Yep. On top of that, the whole thing is Morrison tented together, and all of those files were created in Studio, and there's a lot of great Studio information in this session about construction of this whole entire project. So,
totally. Make sure to leave comments throughout the show. We love to hear what you're thinking, and we would love if you liked and subscribed to our channel.
And join us live sometime. We'd love to see you.
We'd love to see you. All right, let's start the show.
Let's do it. Hello, everyone. My name is Jake, and this is Shaper Sessions.
My name's Russ. Welcome to the show.
All right, we got a fun one for you today. We are doing arched frame and panel doors 2 ways.
One of these.
What are those?
One of these. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to make doors.
Yep.
One of my favorite is the frame and panel. We were talking about this before the show. It's material efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Structurally
good for
sound.
Expansion and contraction. It's structurally sound. And you can do some really cool stuff with it, like this arch, for example. So, we've got a lot of studio design that we're going to teach you today. We've got some pretty cool Origin stuff. We haven't made a template on this show in a long time, I don't think.
Because usually when you're making a frame and panel door, you're going to make a couple of them.
Yeah, who makes just one frame and panel door?
I guess it's possible, but
Those tiny house people.
odds are we're trying to get you to re-outfit your kitchen, so we're going to do templates.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see, what else is there to know? This is Shaper Sessions. It's our bi-weekly live stream. I already told this to the Instagram folks, so it feels like I'm saying this again.
It's funny, we're doing a new thing where we're going live on Instagram at the same time, and that's making me more nervous.
This is our bi-weekly show on the Shaper system, everything Origin, Studio, Trace, Workstation Plate, etc. We try to teach you something new every other week. We've got giveaways that we're going to do at the end of the show. We're going to do live Q&A at the end of the show, so if you have any questions about your Origin or anything that we cover during the show, stay tuned for that. Type those questions into the chat box. We usually have a couple hundred messages, which I love. We read them all at the end of every show.
Do.
And we've got Ted in there who's going to be sending those questions to us to answer. For the giveaway, we're going to be giving away some Shaper swag, some router bits. Make sure to answer the poll question that pops up in the middle of your screen toward the middle of the show.
What's that question?
I think today, I need to go in and adjust it while you're cutting something, actually. Oops, good reminder. Today it's going to be, what fonts do you want us to add to Studio?
Oh, perfect.
Because we're doing some Studio stuff, and we've got the opportunity to add some fonts this year. So we want to know what ones you want.
I got one.
Okay.
Like
what
a
is it?
tattoo style font.
Oh, like Mom.
Yeah.
Mom. Cool.
All right, we always like to start off with making a little sawdust right off the top. So we're going to do one of 2 ways, cutting an arch. We're going to cut it just with Origin.
We're going to cut it just with Origin. Don't mind that you don't know how to design this stuff yet. We're going to go straight from this into the computer and go ahead and show you how this is all designed. But without further ado, yeah, let's cut some stuff.
All right. I've just made a slightly wider workstation shelf so that I can put my rail down on here. And I have made a rectangular probe. So that's probing 2 on the front, 1 on either side to find my center, which gives me a nice center point that I can place this file that Russ made in Studio.
Okay.
So here we go. I'm just going to do this in a couple passes.
So our first cut with Origin for the day. What Jake's doing here is just a simple outside cut. So we've got this template that we've designed in Studio. He's following the outside of the template line. He's got a little bit of a roughing offset baked into that. That roughing offset gives him a little bit of wiggle room because this is a heavy cut. He's going to go down in a couple of depths. We are not using auto pass today. We won't get too bogged down into what auto pass is right now, but let's say just that we're not using it because we're not going all the way around this cut. AutoPass helps us go down to our final depth in a series of steps with a built-in roughing and finishing offset. But it's really best for either going all the way around your part If we wanted to go back and forth on this, we could do it on a line, just as a line. AutoPath does support those open path cuts now. That's a new thing as of the end of last year. But since we're just doing a portion of this overall shape, that's going to be just an outside cut a couple of times. And now we're going in and removing that offset. All this programming is really easy to do on the screen. Now Jake's just going to go in and take off that 0.03 inches. It's about 3/4 of a millimeter. There we go.
There we go.
That's an arch. Looks a little lopsided, Jake.
It does. That was intentional.
We're going to cut this tenon later.
Yeah, we went ahead and cut one of the tenons ahead of time, but we're going to show you how to make that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got this arch. How the heck did we get the design for this arch? We used Shaper Studio. It's our simplified digital design tool for craftspeople. And what do you say we take a few minutes and show the folks how we design a frame and panel door in here?
Let's do it. We really wanted to take today to start from square one on how to make something like this because Studio is pretty wild at this and pretty great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we've got this pulled up on the computer already. Here it is, studio.shapertools.com. This is Shaper Studio. We've got some other shows on everything Studio, so we're really just going to dive into what's applicable to the frame and panel door. We've got shapes, and we're going to use them. Make shape is over here on the left side, and this is mostly going to be rectangles. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is define the overall size of my door, just so that I have some sense of scale for what I'm working with. And you gave me some notes at the beginning of the show, Jake, about this door that you made. I think it's 20 inches wide by 27 inches tall. Does that sound right?
Yes.
I think that's right.
I think that's right.
Okay.
Let me confirm. Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Handy pocket tape measure. Okay, we've also got some styles. What's a style? The style is the vertical part. This is always hard for me to remember, but it's easy to think of the rails as the part that is horizontal, like you would hang onto a handrail. That's how I remember.
That's what's going to help it stick.
Rails are horizontal. Styles are just the other one. We can go ahead and duplicate this because we've got two of them. And I'm just snapping this to the edges of the design. This is actually snapping using the grid. I want to fine tune that. I'm going to just use smart alignment and turn off snap to grid for now. So we're not going to be snapping to the grid over here. We're just going to be snapping the shapes to each other to line them up. I also want to add the rails. And the rails are only going to go from here to here. So the width on that is going to be 20 minus 3 minus 3 minus 3. We can do that in the calculator here in Studio. And 3 inches tall. This is going to be the bottom one. The top one is interesting, though, because I want the arch to be 3 inches wide at its tallest point, but it's going to arc down here toward the bottom. So it is actually going to need to be thicker. To land at that measurement, I'm actually going to build the arch first and then come back to add the rail rectangle shape after the fact. Now, Jake, you made this with an ellipse, and I thought that was really clever because it's subtly more tasteful than a circle.
Right.
I think. It's a nice arced shape, but it's got a little bit of movement in it. Let's call it that.
Easier than making a 12-foot circle and just using a small section of it.
Yeah, I like that too. So I'm looking at my notes over here. The ellipse that's going to be the underside of this arc here, you had 20 inches wide. And how tall? 9 inches tall. Okay. So where do we put this? Right now it's snapped to the top. I want that to be down 3 inches from the top. So we'll just let it snap here. It's going to give me a position. the center of this is at 9 inches, and I want to move this down 3. So I'll just say -3. There it is. And now you can see here, this is the shape of that arched rail that we had. I can't click on it yet because it doesn't exist. It's just a shape that's defined by the boundaries of other shapes, but that's what Shapeshifter is perfect for. So I can go ahead and select everything in Studio, hit that Shapeshifter button, and now I can pick out this new shape that I want to keep. I'm going to keep the rest of the shapes. You can either drop the rest of the shapes or keep them, make shape, and now I've got this new template, and this is what we used to make that arch. The next thing that we're going to do is the tenon on the side of this, and so I'm going to get a little bit ahead of myself on the second half of the show where we add the top half of the arch, because we want to make sure that this tenon that we're adding isn't running into the top arch at all. So let me add another ellipse. We want everything to be offset by 3 inches. So I'm going to add 3 inches in every direction to the original ellipse I made. The first one was 20 inches wide. So the second one, let's make this 26 inches wide. And then the height was 9 inches. Now let's make it 15. And we can drop that again, just snap that and line it up. You know, it's funny. This is maybe some artifact of ellipses. Doesn't it look a little bit wider at the top than at the sides? Isn't that
Is
a
it
little
an optical
funny?
illusion?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just going to roll with it. Okay, so now we've got this arch. Now I know that when I draw my tenon over here, this would be the worst thing if your tenon stuck out the side of the arched style.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we want to make sure that we build a tenon that doesn't run into the arched style.
It's kind of like discovering a domino.
Kind of like discovering a domino. Is that a callback to last week, Jake?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just feel out some different dimensions for my tenon in here, see what works, see what doesn't. I know that I want this tenon to be offset a little bit from the bottom corner of this intersection here. So I'm going to zoom in, drag this square around. I'm just using this as a spacer. We're going to call this 0.25 inches tall. Using this as a spacer because we're kind of off the map on the grid here. We're at a really weird height for this rail because it's got that ellipse built into it. But with this snapping feature turned on, everything's snapping right to these corners. So I can do spacing from the corners really easily without having to do any math.
Nice. Can you zoom in on that? You're getting right at that intersection.
I'm getting right at that intersection.
That's cool.
There it is. So we're going to make this tenon, I think, 1/4 inch off of that corner.
Perfect.
What do you think? And do you think that 2 inches tall is going to work?
I think so.
2 inches tall, 1 inch long. Now we're imagining the tenon coming out the side of this part here. Oh yeah. There we go. That's lined up. That fits great. So this we can delete for now. This is where that tenon's going to be. Now this is the wrong direction for a tenon. This is a flat lay here. So we do need to rearrange all of this stuff to get that actual tenon file. But this is the best way to check that spacing to make sure that you don't run into that arc that you're making.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to just going to go ahead and draw this over here.
That's
and then
what I'd
we
like
can
to do.
copy it out into a new file if we want to. Okay. This is the same way that we've made mortise and tenons a billion times on this show. We're going to first make a rectangle that determines the bounding box. This is the stock that we're working with. And now if I click into this part that we're actually going to be cutting the tenon into, we can see that it's 4.288 inches tall. So if I click this, let's make it 4.288 inches tall. And the width is going to be the width of our tenon. So, not the tenon, the material.
Yeah.
How wide is that? 3/4 of an inch?
3/4 thick.
Okay. 0.75. Nice. And you're actually going to be cutting this on workstation, so it's going to be rotated 90 degrees. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and rotate 90 degrees. There we go. I like that. We're going to take this, duplicate it, I want to make this pocketing area where we're going to be able to pocket out beyond the boundary of the workpiece so that we can clear everything out past the edge. I think a 1/4 inch all around is a really easy way to do this, just to make sure that you're going past that edge. So on the computer here, we will go ahead and add 1/2 inch to the width and 1/2 inch to the height. And again, with that snapping, we can just snap that right to the middle there. Now, tenon-wise, this is what we did before. We just made a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch spacer, that is, because this is just floating out in the middle of nowhere. We're not snapping to a grid, we're snapping to shapes. So we're going to put that 1/4 inch spacer in there and then add a slot, rounded rectangle. This will be 2 inches. We decided that's what works for that. And I think 0.3 inches out of a 3/4 inch piece of material is going to be the right size tenon for this.
Big enough to do a roughing offset for the mortise.
Yeah.
With
And
a 1/4
again,
inch bit.
we're just snapping all this into place. So it's in the center of our material here, up against that 1/4 inch spacer on the side. I'm going to delete that spacer now. And is this the orientation that you like, Jake?
That is
Is that backwards or is that right?
backwards,
I think it's
but
backwards.
I can flip it.
Okay. Well, I am going to go ahead and duplicate this design and call this, let's say, we'll call this Sessions Tenon, because I want to clean this up. There's more to do here. Because I don't want to give you this file with all of this stuff.
Right.
We saved all of this in that original design that I have because we want to come back to this later. We're going to pick out a template to cut that top arch. But in here, because I duplicated that file, we can go ahead and delete all of this, focus on our tenon stock. I can rotate this 180 degrees. There we go. And then when I drag this all around, I want to make sure that snap to grid is back on. Let's do this in 1/4 inch increments. I want to snap the corner up to this point over here.
Right corner.
Ooh, okay. We can do that too. Right corner. Okay. Recenter. I love this button. I think we're a little offset here. There we go. And I'm going to turn on that origin anchor for you.
Perfect.
Okay, we're almost there. Next thing, love to shapeshift. I forgot to shapeshift this. That's the most important part. Crucial. I'm going to take the outside portion, the tenon, shapeshift. This is my pocket. When I'm clearing all this pocketed material away, I don't want to cut the tenon. I just want this. I still want to keep those existing shapes because I'm going to keep the tenon, make that shape. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this rectangle that's covering the whole workspace now. Now I've got 3 paths, and we can plan these out in plan mode. This is just representing the boundary of my stock. This is just a check. We'll call this a guide. This is that pocketing area. That looks good, and we want to cut this. How deep, Jake? 1 inch?
1 inch.
And then this tenon will also cut 1 inch deep, and this is an outside cut. Now let's review this. Does that look like what you want to cut?
I'd say so.
Okay. Sessions tenon, load it up.
Bam. All right, I've already swapped over to my previous workspace. I have that rail mounted up in workstation, and I have a grid at the top right corner. Let's go ahead and bring in that new file. Bam. Snap that to 0, 0. We're ready to rumble.
Okay, hit it. All right, so Jake is pocketing this out now. Pocketing mode on Origin's really cool. It works just like a plunge router, but it keeps you inside the lines. So Jake's clearing out all of this. We excluded the tenon shape from the area that Jake's allowed to reach. You can see that it's not in the cross-hatched area there. So Origin's going to work right around that tenon with that auto correction. And there is a little bit of a buffer in there. That's going to help make sure that we don't cut into anything accidentally that we don't want to, even if Jake is really hogging this out aggressively. Again, that's the point of those roughing passes versus those finishing passes. Looks like Jake's using auto pass on this one. Auto pass is really cool. It's letting Jake step down this tenon pocket automatically. This is a new feature as of end of last year or so. And it's just saving time and making it such that you don't have to stop and type in a bunch of numbers all the time. You're just typing in that final depth and then going down in progressive layers until you get there. Now we're going around the outside of this tenon. We already cut one of these before the show, so we know that there should be a little bit of an offset on this one, or I think actually there's going to be 0 offset on this tenon, and we did it all on the mortise. That's right. We've got a 6 thou negative offset on the mortise, so that mortise is 6/1000ths of an inch bigger than exactly on size. We're going to cut this tenon exactly to size, and this is exactly the same as the last tenon that we did. Point here is that once you find your offsets and tune them once, Origin is going to make everything fit exactly the same way every time. Super precise tool. Especially if you're doing a big batch of these, it's good to have that precision that you can rely on.
Sweet.
Nice looking tenon. Oh yeah, that's a cool part.
And perfectly that arch.
I love that.
Do a quick test fit.
Oh yeah. Haha.
There we go.
Cool. Here, let's hold up side by side. A and B. Yeah, I like that. Okay, cool. That's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with how this is turning out.
It's a very satisfying door.
It's just nice when a door is... It's just nice when the door's nice.
You know, it got me thinking,
You
too.
look at your doors every day, man.
You do. And they get slammed.
Yeah.
We're going with like a very classical arch.
Mm-hmm.
But with Origin, there's not really any reason you couldn't get a little crazy with that shape.
Yeah, you could go Gothic with it.
I was thinking like a widow's peak.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking one of those...
Oh, a nice...
whatever the inverse of a widow's peak is, one of those
Yeah.
Gothic arches that kind of comes to a point at the top.
Yeah, there's a name for that.
I think it's a Gothic arch.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you could go crazy. You could go very decorative also.
Yeah.
Give the top of your doors some column styling.
Because we're going to cut that panel also with Origin. We're going to extract that shape from this same file. Mm-hmm. And then to cut the dado around the inside of the rail and style, we actually just used a router table and a dado bit with the following bit.
Super easy. All right, we got a couple things to talk about before we come back to working on the doors. After the break, we're going to make a template for the top part of this door, and we're actually going to go on a little field trip over to the bandsaw and the flush trim router to clean those up. That's going to be really exciting. But we got a couple things to announce first. First one, pull up the poll question. First one's the poll question. What fonts do you want to see in studio? And if you answer this poll question, then that's how you're going to get entered to win the giveaway at the end of the show. Yep. So that's important. The next most important thing is product announcements. I see you already pulled something down.
The magic stuff.
The bit cleaning fluid.
This is, in combination with our ultrasonic bit cleaner, is top in the game in cleaning your bits. And now we sell this in a 6-pack.
There you go. I think the pricing on that is basically buy 5, get 1 free.
Yeah.
So pretty good deal. That's great. That's really it right now for that one. But there is something that I want to show you guys on our website. So let's hop over to the computer here. If you go to shapertools.com, here you go. We just built a new page, and I'm going to take you all the way to the bottom down here to find a dealer. Okay. First page here, find an origin near you. This is dealers. We showed you this before, but the new page here is events. So we've got a bunch of events coming up. These are organized by state, just because I'm in the US website up here. These should be regionalized. But there's some really cool stuff. Origin Bootcamp at the Florida School of Woodwork. This is a class that Jake's teaching one day. It's full already, unfortunately, but we're going to be doing more of those this year. We've already got the Texas Woodworking Festival planned out. And at the end of February, I'm going to be in Las Vegas at the Kitchen and Bath Show, working in the Sugatsuni booth. We're collaborating with those guys. So if you're in the area, pop by and say hello. So just wanted to share that events page. Stay tuned for more events.
Cool. Those are really exciting, those classes.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the word out there more.
Totally. Should we show a shop tour?
We should. Today's shop tour was brought to us by Tracy Petite. Thank you so much for sending this in.
Yeah.
And Goose, when you're ready, you can let it roll.
Well, welcome to my shop. It's 15 by 12. It's in my basement. It's the first workshop I've ever had that had heat and air conditioning, so it's very pleasurable to work down here. Making use of a lot of the space that I can out of a small area. You'll see the cast of usual characters for equipment, machinery. It's a Boris saw table that miter saw is sitting on. A lot of people said they didn't like it. I love it. Over in the corner, you might start recognizing something that you see over there. There's the shaper stuff. I've got the plate, I've got the workstation, I've got shaper itself, trace, all that stuff. Pretty much not much left. Up here on top, there's some other shaper merchandise and things I use. Come across here, some more clamps, workstation. Right now I'm working on finishing up a couple of small outdoor tables. Built most of this stuff here and put it up. We'll head out this way. I'll show you the rest of my shop. Those are a couple tables that I just got through making. The shaper tool was instrumental in making the bow ties that are on top. My legs go straight through. And I also did the what do you want to call those? I'm dyslexic, sorry, but the little cuts, dado cuts, I guess you want to call them, for the legs down there. The shaper tool did that as well. I built this here. This is my home theater room. So you'll find out soon enough that you're in a man cave right now. This entire floor is mine. So I built this. It was just nothing but framework. I had to put up some ductwork and hide it in a recessed ceiling screen. So you come on down the hallway here. I'll show you the rest of my workshop, because my workshop is split into a couple areas. This is another part of my man cave, games and TVs. My audio system over here that not only supplies music when I'm working on stuff like painting. Oh, I'll show you something else while I'm here. This guitar and the stand. That stand was all built by Shaper, and some carving here and there and sanding and stuff like that, but mostly all cut out by Shaper. Solid cherry. And then the last part of my workshop is over here. I have a work table where I can sit down. My chair's in the other room behind me at the moment, but I can sit down here. Outside you might see something that looks like a grill. That's the grill, so more of the man cave. And then back over here, this is my laser. So I do laser engraving and cutting, and this is a 55 watt laser. Does a great job of doing things that Shaper just doesn't do. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the tour. I know it was quick, but you guys like to keep these things fast. And there you go.
What a wild ride.
I think new requirements or bonus points if you include music in your shop tour.
Backing track, absolutely. We're at the bottom of the list for shop tours right now,
Yeah.
actually. So I'm going to put out an earnest plea for more shop tours.
Earnest plea.
I would love to see some tiny shops. We haven't seen any tiny shops
true.
in a while.
That felt like a really great use of the space. Thank you very much for showing us that, Tracy. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. If I'm going to just come out and say it, if you send us a shop tour and we play it on the show, we've been giving people a $50 gift card to the shapertools.com website.
Oh, we've been so coy about that. That's what we do.
Yeah. So send us a shop tour, please. 3-ish minutes, landscape orientation, narrated, backing track, level it up. Send that to us at our email address. That's sessions@shapertools.com. And we try to check it every week.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should we get back to it?
Let's get back to it.
I have one note before we get back to it. Ted, who is a wealth of esoteric knowledge,
Just
hit
in
me
general.
up, just in general, and says that the Gothic arch, we would call that an Ogivol arch.
Coming in clutch, Teddy.
Coming in clutch. Thank you, Ted. But yes, let's get back to it. The second half of the show here, we are going to make a template as if we were going to do more of these on the router table, because we are going to do more of these on the router table. We're going to take this glued up door that we made. We'll build the template in Studio. We'll cut it out with Origin. And then we're going to take you on a ride over to the bandsaw and the flush trim table and cut that arch in. Are you ready?
Yeah.
To use the router table
Jake's
live.
gonna use the
Jake?
router table live.
Jake's going to use the router table live. Before we get going on that, we do need to do a little bit more studio design because we have the bottom arch pulled out, but I also want to pull out the top arch so that we can cut it out of this template material. And actually, let's hold this up really quick so that everybody knows what we're cutting this out of. It's just 1/4 inch MDF,
Quarter-inch
hardboard,
MDF.
something.
It's not hardboard necessarily, but it is super
It
dense.
is a hard board.
It is a hard board. I love this stuff for template. It's light and easy to use.
Great.
And it holds an edge.
Okay, so it's not going to be much cutting, or it's going to be a nice simple cut, we should say. That stuff's really consistent. Let's hop into Studio. Here we are. This is where we left off before I pulled this tenon file out. Can you even leave it in? Because I'm going to do the same thing in a minute where I just copy these things out to a different file. Zooming in a little bit here. I want to pull a template out of this arch, and I want to keep the top that goes through the stiles. This is the cool thing that we're doing today. We're doing the stiles and the rail all the way across to the other side. And Jake, you requested before the show that I leave in the bottom arch to help you align.
Yes,
right?
please.
Okay, so really all I'm going to do here is make another rectangle as a base shape. What I want to make sure is that I get this arch all the way down a little bit past the bottom of the arch that we've already made. I know that this original shape is 4.288 inches tall, something like that. Let's make this new one 4.5. Does that work for the template material you have?
Yes.
Okay. And what did we say? This needs to be the whole width of the door. So we're going to make that 20... No, it is 20 inches wide. Yeah. There we go. And snap that right to the top. Okay, now here's the Studio magic. We're going to select all of this stuff, go into Shapeshifter, and I'm going to pick out the shapes that I want to keep in this template. And it doesn't matter if I have this weird asymmetric tenon spot going on or whatever. Jake, does this look reasonable to you? So this is that upper arch. It's the full width of the door, and it's got the lower arch cut out. And it goes a little bit farther than the original arch that we have.
That's okay.
But
I think
that's
enough.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Make shape. And I said don't keep existing shapes, which might have been a mistake in hindsight, but I can always undo and do that again. So we're going to shape shift. We're going to pick just these parts that I want to keep. I'll keep existing shapes actually so that I can mess with this template later if I want to and make shape. And now I can pull this out and there's that template. So again, my favorite way to get this stuff into its own file is go ahead and duplicate that whole design, and we'll call this Sessions Arch Template. And now I can get rid of anything that isn't that arch. Done. I'm going to turn off the custom anchor point on this one because we just want to plop this shape down on some MDF and cut it out. But I think, well, let's see. What else can we do? We'll go into plan mode. Set this to an outside cut. We're just going to do all the convenient stuff. What do you say, Jake? That's 0.25 inches thick, so I'll make this 0.3 inch depth. So we're sure you cut all the way through.
2.6.
2.6. Very confident in the thickness of that material. We'll go with 2.6. Okay. This is going to send over to Origin, and you've got the shelf set up with the template material down, so we're good to go.
Yep. Just again, a little bit wider piece of MDF. Double stick taped down to my shelf, and then my template material on top. Let's go ahead and bring that in. There it is. And we're not trying to be super precious about this, just visually placed is fine.
Yeah, one easy cut.
Cool. 2 passes, roughing and finish. Let's boogie.
Okay. So, pretty easy cut here. Again, like before, we're doing an outside cut, so Jake is following that line. And the only place that we have to be really careful about our edge quality is going to be on the upper part of that arch, because we already cut the lower half of the arch. We're cutting that with Origin. Got a little snag under the base there. Sometimes what happens is we mislevel the shelf a little bit, or something that happens to me occasionally is a bunch of sawdust will get caught up under Origin's base. And you want to make sure that you pause whenever you feel that kind of resistance, and just go ahead and clear everything out, because it's those jerky movements that are going to give you less than optimal cut results. But in any case, for this template, the surface that we want to be really cautious of is that top edge. The rest of it isn't going to get pattern routed or anything. So as long as we're careful about that top edge, this template is going to be A-okay. You can see that corrective action working there, and now Origin's going to bring Jake into that finished pass, just that last couple thousandths of an inch, and Jake's going to really smoothly go around the perimeter there. Doesn't matter where in the circle you are, I like to remind people. The corrective action works just the same. The accuracy and precision is going to be just the same anywhere inside that corrective range. You are going to be in the safest position if you try to keep the crosshairs over the dot, but as long as you're floating somewhere inside that circle, you're going to be okay. It's more important to be smooth than right on the money every time. And that's the end. How are we looking? Oh yeah. That's some accurate thickness material right there.
Nice.
Okay.
Knock off any fuzz.
Good looking template. Little ASMR, sanding ASMR there.
All right.
All right, you want to stick that down?
Yeah, a little double-sided
Got some
tape.
double-sided tape. This is our favorite for templates, just using that double-sided tape. And you're taping near the edge that will be routed, which is important to keep the most strength and the most stick right there.
All right. Come on. There we go.
There we go.
I'm just going to hover, line things up.
Mm-hmm. I think I changed the arch dimensions from
I think
the last one that you did.
That's okay.
Okay. My bad. That looks pretty good.
All right, going down.
Yeah, press it.
Sweet.
Okay.
You ready?
I think we've never done this before.
One show, we made a
Yeah.
table saw sled.
Okay, I've got our camera B over here. Goose, do we have the camera up? What do you think? Safety glasses first?
Safety glasses first.
Oh, yeah. All right. Jake, I got you. Here we
Let's
go.
Don't trip.
Don't trip.
All right, first thing we want to do is buzz off these corners on the bandsaw. Make our lives a little easier on the router table.
Welcome to our shop, by the way. We should do another Shaper Shop tour. We did one a year plus ago.
A few moons ago.
A few moons ago.
We got some new stuff.
Yeah, we got some new stuff.
All right, here we go. Okay, for this, what I want to avoid is any potential blowout that could happen there from the router exiting. So I'm using a double bearing following bit. And we're going to start here, come to about halfway, stop, raise the bit to use the bottom bearing, and flip this whole thing to reference the bottom. Ready, set?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Not bad. That was fun.
I love that following bit.
That's a nice following bit. I should have gotten the info on that before this show. Do you remember who makes that? I have no idea.
White side?
Yeah, you think so? We should make following bits for all the templates that we do.
Yeah. Feels like a good moment to remind everybody that following bits cannot go in Origin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Origin is the following.
Exactly. But
Wow. Look at that. Imagine having a kitchen full of those.
that's good. That's good
Pretty
stuff.
cool. All right. I have one more thing that I want to show everybody because we talked about the frame We haven't talked about the panel yet.
Yes.
Okay. So, how do we make the panel? We have the frame. We have the inside dimensions of the frame. The way that we grooved this frame was just with a following bit on the router table.
Yeah.
And so the very first thing that I'm going to do is break out the shape of the panel with Studio over here. But then what I would recommend, because everybody's following bit is different, just take the dimension that cuts and use that as an offset on origin. And I'll show you all that in plan mode, how that works. So let's go back into the computer here. We're on this arch template, but because we've saved everything, we can go back to the last one, and that's in Open Recent over here. Arched frame and panel door. This one's starting to get busy. Okay, so our panel is going to be the space that's inside that bottom arch. So just like we've been doing all day, we're going to go ahead and select all this stuff down here and shape shift that panel shape. So this is the shape of the panel that will be seen inside the frame. Make shape. Let's break that out. Again, duplicate design. And we're going to call this sessions panel. Get rid of everything that you don't need. Bring this to the middle-ish. Okay, now this is the shape that's going to be shown inside the frame. And if we zoom in, let's just do a fit. Here we go on this. We're going to call that an outside cut. This will cut just this piece, but you need a little bit more to fit into the groove that you're making. So Jake, what's the depth of groove that we cut? Was that something like 1/4 inch deep?
It was bigger based on this.
Oh, you've got that bit.
I got that
right
bit
there.
just to show it off so everyone understands what we're talking about.
Oh, that's a big groove.
That is a dado bit. It's a 1/4 inch groove by
Deep one.
3/8.
3/8. Okay.
Unnecessarily deep, but hey.
But it works. So we go in here. When you're on origin and plan mode shows the same thing, what you're going to do to make this panel the right size is offset your cut by 3/8 or 0.375. In our case, this is going to be different depending on the bit that you're using. So again, if you can see on the screen here, see the distance between the cut path and the template itself. The cut path is showing you the size of the panel that you're actually going to make, and you would make that based off of just the inside part of the file that you're pulling out. That's all there is to it. Just use offsets.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sweet.
I think that's all we had for today. That's a frame and panel door. We have, if you've got more questions on tenons and hardware, we've got other shows on mortise and tenons, and we've got other shows on cabinet hardware, door hardware. You don't even have to do little cabinet frame and panel doors like this. You could do big interior doors and hang them with like the Simonswerk Tectus hinge that we installed 2 weeks ago.
Totally.
Frame and panel is good for a lot of stuff. So check those out if you want to learn more about tenons and hardware. And, okay, I wanted to mention the last thing, which is the show that we're going to have 2 weeks from now. Speaking of other shows to check out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Want to start getting in the habit of giving a little preview of what we're going to be working on. So, Goose is going to be really happy we're about to use the detail cam here. This is a thin veneer inlay designed by Ramon Valdez. This is called a Penrose triangle, and it's really trippy. It's like an impossible object, MC Escher style. We're going to be talking about thin veneer marquetry and inlay. This is very thin commercial veneer here that we've just applied to the face of this part. And we're going to be talking about this in 2 weeks. So that's for the folks who are watching this on YouTube and don't get the whole Q&A and all that. You know, we usually talk about this stuff at the end, but I want to make sure everybody hears it. Join us live on the 20th for that, February 20th. Today's the 6th, 2 weeks from now. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining.